Congratulations, you did it! You made it to the Farmer orientation video, and that's no easy feat. Farmer is the best construction company located in Victoria and providing services throughout British Columbia. Farmer Construction has made some amazing buildings, won some prestigious awards, and have been at it since 1951. Owned by Dave Haydar, Jared Vink, and Paul Gray, you are in good company as Farmer is backed by an incredible group of people from all skills and backgrounds. To understand what it's like to work here at Farmer, meet Jim. Jim is not an actual employee or subcontractor at Farmer, but he is here to show you what happens after you finish this orientation and quiz that follows it. Make sure you understand everything. Jim here is really excited because he got the job working with Farmer. Just like a first date, he's wondering what he is going to wear. Well, Jim, you are responsible for your own underwear, of course. Clothing needed for protection against natural elements, general purpose work gloves, CSA-approved footwear, and safety headgear. If you are an employee with Farmer Construction, they will provide a vest, a respirator, fall protection equipment, and any specialized equipment for your task. Perfect! You're starting to look like a Farmer Construction pro. But one more thing, Jim. Since you will be working with silica today, you are going to need to wear a respirator, which means you need to shave that beard. Just so we know who is responsible for what, management provides the resources necessary to support the Personal Protective Equipment Program, also known as PPE. Oversee that PPE is used properly and appropriately, and ensure PPE training is provided to workers. Supervisors are responsible for selecting PPE that is appropriate for the task, ensuring adequate supply and pre-use inspections, providing training, enforcing the use of PPE and maintaining equipment according to regulation and manufacturer's recommendations. All workers are responsible for providing their own basic PPE, selecting PPE according to regulation requirements, participating in PPE monthly inspection and training, using PPE correctly, maintaining PPE in accordance with the manufacturer's recommendations, and encouraging fellow workers to utilize PPE. Wow! Look at you, Jim! That is one smooth shave! Now let's talk about some of your responsibilities before we head to the site. Do you have some previous training or certifications already? Prior to commencing any work on site, subcontractors and Farmer employees are required to hand in all appropriate certificates for the jobs they will be performing. This can include certificates for fall protection, confined space entry, current respirator fit test, scaffold erection, aerial work platform operation, material lift truck or forklift operation, powder actuated tools, abatement certificates, WHMIS. Do you have any of these certifications, Jim? Perfect! Be sure to give a copy to your supervisor so they know you have the required certificates and ensure that they are still valid. Before we head to the site, let's determine if you are a new or young worker. The Occupational Health and Safety Regulation defines a young worker as any worker under the age of 25. A new worker, on the other hand, can be of any age and includes those who are new to the workspace or location or facing new hazards. This is a requirement that all site foremen for Farmer Construction and subcontractors to sign in how many workers they have daily. You can find the sign-in sheet in the Farmer office. All workers on site should know the difference between the Farmer Construction Safety Manual and the Blue OHS book, and where to find them before work begins. So, this is it, Jim's first day on a real Farmer Construction site. Like every Farmer Construction site, there are policies and hazards, and let's face it, a lot going on. Fellow construction workers working on site, as well as construction material, all make for potential hazards. It's a busy environment, and each site brings its own risk for injury. This is why each morning at Farmer, we encourage you to participate in what we call the Farmer Stretch Program. The Farmer Stretch Program was implemented to prepare the body for everyday work stresses and is done through stretching and strengthening the specific muscles that are commonly associated with strains and sprains. To give you a better idea of the proper way to do stretches, here's Mark Fiocco, kinesiologist with the CBI Health Group, to take you through some of his favorite stretches.
So the first stretch we're going to do is going to stretch our upper traps, or kind of our side neck area. So what we're going to do for this one is you're going to slightly tilt your head to the side, and what you want to prevent is kind of twisting through your neck, so your head's kind of facing forward, just going to the side. And if you feel like you need more of a stretch, you can put your hand on the side of your head and then gently pull towards your shoulder. And for this one, you should feel a stretch right in through the top of your shoulder and neck area, just like that. So the next stretch we're going to go through is stretching our shoulder joint and our deltoid muscle. So what you're going to do is put your right hand on your left shoulder, and then what you're going to do is with your left hand, you're just going to gently push your elbow towards your chest. You should feel a stretch right in through your shoulder, just like that. And then the next stretch we're going to go through is we're going to stretch our pec muscles on the front of our chest and our rhomboid muscles on back between our shoulder blades. So what we're going to do for this one is you're going to put your hands together just like that, and you're going to gently bring your hands down towards the ground, and then you're going to gently pull your hands away from your back. For this one, just making sure that your shoulders are nice and relaxed and you're not extending through your back. Okay, so the next stretch we're going to go through is stretching the front of your thigh, or your quadricep muscle group. So what you're going to do for this one is you're going to actually stand on one foot. So what you're going to do is just go like that, and you're going to grab your ankle just like that, and you're going to try to bring your knees together and pull your ankle towards your buttock. What you want to do is actually prevent arching your lower back. So keep yourself nice and upright, just like that. You should feel a stretch right through the front of your thigh. Okay, so the next stretch we're going to go through is stretching your groin, or your adductor muscle group. So what you're going to do is go into a wider stance, feet are more than shoulder width apart. Make sure your toes are pointing forward. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to side lunge to the side, just like that. You should feel a stretch on your inner thigh, just right in through here. So the next stretch we're going to go through is stretching our forearm muscles, so our flexors and extenders of the wrist. So what we're going to do for this one is you're going to extend your arm out, make sure there's no bend in your elbow, and what you're going to do is you're going to bring your wrist up, fingers to the sky, and you're going to gently pull your fingers towards your body, just like that. And for this one, you're going to feel the stretch on the underside of your forearm here, and then you're going to bring your fingers pointing down, and then you're going to gently pull your wrist towards your body that way.
Thanks, Mark. Now that we're all limbered up, remember those hazards we saw when we first walked onto the site? This is why the crew foreman, let's call him Bob,
Well, my name is...
does a daily task inspection using a safety data sheet which can be found in the site office or used digitally. Some of the hazards the crew foreman looks for is slips, trips, heights, ladders, roofs, and silica.
Silo... what?
Exactly. Let's learn what silica is all about in this cool video animation, shall we? Silica is the second most common mineral on Earth, found in the common form as sand and rock. Health hazards of silica come from breathing in the dust. If crystalline silica becomes airborne through industrial activities, exposure to fine crystalline silica dust can lead to a disabling, sometimes fatal disease called silicosis. The fine particles are deposited in the lungs, causing thickening and scarring of the lung tissue. The scar tissue restricts the lung's ability to extract oxygen from the air. This damage is permanent, but the symptoms of the diseases may not appear for many years. Many of the activities performed on farmer construction sites result in the creation and release of silica dust. These activities include, but are not necessarily limited to, sweeping, jackhammering, saw cutting, drilling of concrete, excavating, and truck loading activities. To help prevent exposure to silica and control it, you will review an exposure control plan and safe work procedures before commencing any work that disturbs silica dust. If you haven't reviewed one yet, ask your employer to review it with you. By understanding and controlling these hazards before work begins, you will be more organized and in turn create a safer work area. Since we are on the topic of safety, let's make sure you are aware of our policies. Farmer has built its reputation on the quality of our employees and subcontractors. We request that you help us maintain this reputation. Compliance with Farmer's health and safety program rules and any other applicable federal, provincial, or local regulations is mandatory. Failure to adhere to these requirements may result in disciplinary action, including removal from site, and in the case of farmer employees, could result in termination of your employment. Make sure you refer to the rules posted on the worksite. But what happens when safety rules aren't followed, or one of these hazards actually causes an accident? Meet Ben. Ben was once working away on the construction site, but ended up with a hernia, so he's here in the first aid office. You will be happy to know that at Farmer, we have an excellent injury management program that can be used to help our injured workers stay at work, perform regular or modified duties, or return to safe and meaningful work as soon as possible. Any injury resulting in medical aid will have a preliminary investigation within 48 hours, followed by an investigation within 30 days. Corrective action will be explained to all crews to prevent a similar injury from occurring. So, with all these potential hazards, you can see why it's important that you know your responsibilities and have the proper training and certifications in place before commencing work. But the great thing about working at Farmer is that we provide training, which includes fit testing, a pass-fail test method that uses your sense of taste or smell or reaction to an irritant smoke in order to detect leakage into the respirator. If you have a beard, be prepared to shave it off. Procedural training, which is done on-site and usually done in a group or crew. Your crew will review a step-by-step procedure that is meant to make you think about your task and how to make it as safe as possible. Tool training, which is not only for new or young workers, but also our seasoned employees who sometimes get complacent in their day-to-day activities. And finally, your trusty local union will provide training for all fall protection, confined spaces, and…
Yes.
Hold up! Did you just say WHMIS?
No,
Great! That's my next topic. WHMIS stands for Workplace Hazardous Material Information System. All employees are to have current WHMIS training certificates. Talk to your employer or union about training. Hazardous material is stored on site in special areas, and containers will be clearly marked for all hazardous materials to be placed and stored. Did you hear all that? Because there will be a small quiz following this video to ensure you are familiar with WHMIS. When working on a farmer construction site, it is important to understand the difference between safe work practices and safe work procedures. Safe work practice is defined as the general direction on how to perform a task, use a tool or piece of equipment, address a worksite condition. At Farmer, we are constantly performing safe work practices. If you have any questions about a job you are doing or are unsure how to conduct your job properly, ask to review a safe work procedure with your foreman. Safe work procedures differ from safe work practices in that they are a written step-by-step procedure on how to do a job from start to finish. Let's look at an example of a step-by-step procedure for drilling into concrete with half-inch or less bits. First, make sure the work area is safe and you have proper access and egress. Set up your work area and ensure housekeeping has been taken care of and all hazards have been eliminated. Inspect tools, ensuring the vacuum attachment is working and the filter is clean, all cords are in good condition, and tools are working properly. Ensure you or the worker have been trained on the DRS tool supplied by Farmer Construction. Drill the concrete, making sure not to make excessive dust. If dust is being made, an alternate plan will have to be made for controlling dust. Clean up the area, ensuring you don't create more silica dust or cause existing silica dust that has settled to become airborne. This may mean you need to use a HEPA vacuum. Before using the vacuum, ensure you have been properly trained on the tool. Great job! That, my friend, is what we call a safe work procedure. But let's be honest, things don't always happen so smoothly. Tools break down, conditions are not as safe, and injuries can arise. So when a tool breaks down, make sure to tag it out and report it to your supervisor. If you see any unsafe conditions, report it to your supervisor. If there are any unsafe acts taking place, report it to your supervisor. And if there are any near misses, injuries, or environmental issues, you guessed it, report it to your supervisor. How are you feeling, Tim? I hope you've been paying attention because this is the critical part of the video. So critical, in fact, that we are going to tell you all about the critical tasks on site. See what I did there? A critical task is defined as a task that has a potential to produce major loss to people, equipment, process, or the environment. At Farmer, we consider all of the following critical tasks. demolition, excavation, work near underground utilities, work near overhead utilities, concrete formwork and stripping formwork, manual material handling, work with silica-containing materials, work near asbestos-containing material, abatement of hazardous materials including asbestos, lead, mold, silica, biological hazards, work at heights over 10 feet, confined space entry, work around cranes, concrete tilt-ups, sharps exposure, working alone, work with hazardous materials, work off scaffold, and work off swing stages. Phew, that's a lot of critical tasks, but let's talk about the ones you will experience most often. These include working at heights, working around high voltage lines, working in confined spaces, and that nasty stuff, silica. When working at heights, you will need to be trained and certified to do so. Any height over 10 feet requires fall protection plan that must be discussed and reviewed with the acting supervisor. Workers will need to review their safe work procedure for working around high voltage lines and understand what their safe limits of approach are. If a crane or any mobile equipment is being used, the operators are not to lift anything over the lines without the proper procedures in place. All of these procedures must be signed off by the acting superintendent. If you have to work in confined spaces, be aware that serious injury or even death in a confined space may result from suffocation, poisoning, entrapment, electric shock, falls, and heat stress. Most confined space accidents can be prevented if you are aware of and address the potential hazards of the job. Now that Jim knows all about our critical tasks, let's talk about the emergency procedures on a farmer site. Be a farmer superhero and familiarize yourself with the first aid kits. These can be found in the site office or first aid room. If there is ever a fire, know that the fire extinguishers are found in red emergency boxes throughout the site. For our next demonstration, Jim will show us the proper protocols to follow when a fire occurs. Since we are all about safety, an actual fire won't be seen, but you get the idea. Determine if the size of the fire is manageable and can be extinguished by a fire extinguisher. Determine whether the fire extinguisher is suitable for the type of fire, A, B, C, or D. Identify your exit routes. If there is a small fire and there is no other imminent danger, try to put it out using a fire extinguisher. If the fire is too large or the situation renders it unsafe to extinguish it, raise the alarm and evacuate the site. When an emergency signal is needed, follow the steps by making 3 short blasts of the air horn for a first aid emergency and 1 long blast until the air horn is empty for a site evacuation. Ensure all workers you encounter are aware of the fire and evacuate. Site superintendent is responsible for phoning the fire department. Ensure all personnel are out of the building and gather at the muster station. When possible, shut doors behind you to contain the fire to as small an area as possible and prevent it from getting more oxygen and fuel. Do not return into the fire location until told it is safe to do so. Preserve the accident scene until after the fire investigation is complete. In case Jim's superhero ability didn't pull through, it's important that we have emergency contact information available if an injury occurs and you are unable to call your next of kin. We will call them for you and let them know where you are and what has happened. Following this video, you will need to provide us with a name and phone number of the persons who must be contacted in case of emergency. To ensure we are all familiar with these emergency practices, Farmer annually performs an emergency drill on all sites. At Farmer, we take incidents like these seriously and are always doing inspections to ensure everything is running as it should be. Weekly site inspections are conducted by supervisors or are delegated to a competent person and reviewed with the site superintendent. Basic and specialized PPE inspections, which are required by all employees. Scaffold inspections, which are done daily by a competent, qualified person. Mobile equipment inspections, which are logged daily and conducted by the operator. Electrical cords and tools require quarterly inspections and are conducted by a competent and qualified person. Tower cranes and riggers inspections are done regularly and conducted by the rigger and the operator. Ladder inspections, which are done quarterly, and respirator inspections, which are done monthly. Inspection forms can be found in the site office or your direct line foreman, and these are all reviewed and signed by the site superintendent. Hey, Jim, want to go for a ride in a tower crane? Hold up there, fella. Working with lifts, hoists, and mobile equipment is one of the leading causes of serious incidents, which is probably why you're wondering what this trusty red tape is all about. The red tape is a control zone being used as a form of lockout, preventing you or anyone else from entering until you receive permission from those who are working in the area. Yellow caution tape, on the other hand, means the area has safety and health concerns of a lower degree. This can range from anything from hoses or cables on the ground, noise, heavy equipment in use, or a congested work area, and many more. Unless the tape states otherwise, as in some cases, yellow tape can mean enter, but proceed with caution. So, if you want to get on the other side of that red tape, be aware that at Farmer, all mobile equipment operators must hold valid certificates, and daily logs must be completed. It's been a great day of work, hasn't it? Let's see what's going on back at the Farmer headquarters, shall we? This is the Joint Occupational Health and Safety Committee, otherwise known as JOHSC. Their goal is to prevent accidents, diseases, and near misses throughout the farmers' work areas. By having a JOHSC made up of even representation of reliable personnel from both management and the workforce, Farmer strives to achieve a well-rounded perspective of views, concerns, and solutions to safety issues. Having the same members attend each meeting once a month should achieve continuity in discussions from one meeting to the next. Farmer also recognizes the need for and value of health and safety meetings. Health and safety meetings will include project startup meetings, work orientations, daily task inspections conducted with all FCL workers, toolbox safety meetings, site safety meetings, management meetings, which include a health and safety component. Now let's get back to the site. Your first day of work on the Farmer construction site is coming to an end. A clean and organized site makes all the difference, not only for safety, but efficiency in the workplace as well. Poor housekeeping can be a cause of accidents, and an unorganized site is the leading hazard of slips, trips, and falls. So if you see one, don't just walk by. Address the mess and ensure everything is well lit and ventilated. Ensure your area is clean and organized before leaving work for the day. That's it. Your first day on the job is over. Great work, Jim. Whether you are an employee or subcontractor with Farmer, let's review your general rights and responsibilities before we wrap things up. As a worker, you have rights and responsibilities as granted by legislation. Your rights include the right to know about hazards in the workplace, the right to participate in health and safety activities in the workplace, the right to refuse unsafe work without getting punished or fired. As a worker, you must be alert to hazards, report them immediately to your supervisor or employer, follow safe work procedures, and act safely in the workplace at all times. Use the protective clothing, devices, and equipment provided. Be sure to wear them properly. Cooperate with Joint Occupational Health and Safety Committees, worker health and safety representatives, WorkSafe BC prevention officers, and anybody with health and safety issues. Get treated quickly should an injury happen on the job, and tell the healthcare provider that the injury is work-related. Follow the treatment advice of healthcare providers. Return to work safely after an injury by modifying your duties and not immediately starting with your full regular responsibilities. And never work under the influence of alcohol, drugs, or any other substance, or if you're overly tired. For more on this, a copy of the legislation can be found on site, and you can download the WorkSafe BC WSBC app to your phone. Let's ensure you are aware of the Farmer construction site rules. Wear appropriate personal protective clothing and equipment where and when required. Visitors and new workers must report to the office or site superintendent on arrival before commencing work. Report all substandard acts, conditions, and near-miss incidents. Report all injury or damage, incidents, or accidents immediately. Perform all work following safe work practices and job procedures. Maintain good housekeeping in your work area. Operate all vehicles and mobile equipment in accordance with site rules and applicable legislation. No possession or consumption of alcohol or drugs while at the worksite or during work hours. Arriving or remaining at work when your ability to perform your job safely is impaired will result in disciplinary action. No fighting, horseplay, or engaging in acts that poses a significant risk to yourself or others. No theft or vandalism. No damaging, disabling, or interfering with safety, firefighting, or first aid equipment. Smoking in designated areas only. Personal cell phone use restricted to worker breaks. Arrive at work on time and ready to work. Bullying or harassment will not be tolerated. Well, Jim, it's been a great day here at Farmer. Now it's your turn. You will now see your site supervisor who will walk you through a site-specific orientation. You will also be given a quiz to ensure you understood everything correctly and you are able to perform your work safely. Thanks for watching.